NTV.
Yes, we're glad you're still with us here on Morning at NTV. We are now taking note in this particular discussion of assimilating tax measures under the framework of policy on educational planning. This comes on the backdrop of what appears to be a back and forth between proprietors of private institutions and government on aspects including what amount of fees to attach to the whole process of acquiring education for some of our learners. As the school term was beginning, there was concern by some parents who could not afford the hikes, and there were calls to private institutions and including even government schools to ensure that the cost of education is brought a little bit lower so that the average Ugandan can manage. However, the proprietors are also concerned about what is no doubt something that is understandable: operational costs. If your child has gone to school, are they able to use electricity? Do they get water as adequately as it should be so that the hygiene can be maintained? Are they under a very good shelter in terms of dormitories, and are they living as well as you want them to live, especially if they were home? So those are some of the aspects that come into play when some of these interactions occur between proprietors of education institutions and the government and, of course, the citizenry. This morning, I have two gentlemen who are going to help us understand what Uganda Revenue Authority is suggesting in terms of measures, but also their point of view with regard to the way forward. I have with me Christopher Mugwanya, the National Treasurer of the Proprietors of Private Education Institutions Association in Uganda. I'll leave it for the rest of the discussion at PPEIAU so that I do not have to grapple with all that. I also have Christopher Kiwanuka Kaweesa, the Communications Director for, as I've just said, PPEIAU. Welcome, gentlemen, to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For purposes of clarity, I'm also Christopher.
Wow.
So we have
Triple Chris.
the three musketeers, musketeers rather.
Yeah.
Interesting there. The discussion is hot, and I would like to begin with you, the Communications Director for PPEIAU. Is that the right acronym in terms of PPEIAU?
Yes.
Thank you for educating me on that. What is happening in terms of what this measure is and how it's being rolled out? What is the contention?
The contention is that government is extending the policy of withholding tax system to schools as agents of government to collect the tax from their suppliers.
That's right.
Okay? But I want to bring the context of withholding tax so that the public can understand it very well. The two words which are critical are withholding and the tax.
And tax.
It is a tax, but which is withheld. The person who withholds this is the withholding agent, and is actually mandated by URA to do it under the law. Now they are saying schools, when they are trading, when they are conducting business, especially when they are purchasing, when they are carrying out procurements of any kind, they should withhold a tax which is 6% of the transactional value, as long as it exceeds 1 million in total. Which means that for every transaction of 1 million,
more than 1 million,
you have to withhold 60,000. 60,000 and remit it to URA. Now, in order to be able to remit to URA, that person must be having a taxpayer identification number, commonly known as TIN. And that means, therefore, schools are being forced to deal with only taxpayers registered with URA. On the other hand, they are trying to force schools to force their suppliers to register with URA.
Interesting.
Indirectly.
In other words, they've thrown their mandate and responsibility to you.
To us. To
in
do
a
it.
very subtle way.
Besides.
And is that what you're uncomfortable with?
Yes, exactly. The responsibility, the mandate of collecting revenue and administering it is a URA responsibility. But a withholding tax system anywhere is a responsibility transferred onto the private sector or even public sector. Traditionally, it used to be only on the public sector. MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies. But now they have rolled it out on a selective basis. They are saying the school of Mugwanya is designated to withhold, while the school of Chris is not designated. And that's going to cause undue competition within the sector itself. That's also another challenge. Yeah. Very big challenge.
That's interesting.
Now, when you look at the people who are really registered with Uganda Revenue Authority, somebody should be deceiving himself to say that when you talk of withholding tax, he does not increase his price. All people who are registered to transact on a contract basis have got relatively higher prices.
Definitely.
But schools cannot afford those prices. We procure our goods from the primary suppliers in the villages, in the countryside.
That's right.
Now they are telling us that before I buy the goods to take them to my school in Mityana, I should come and look for a supplier in Kampala, and that's going to increase costs, operating costs.
That's right.
These are all the challenges we are looking at.
Okay, let me come to Mr. Mugwanya Christopher, the National Treasurer of PPEIAU.
Yeah.
In all this, money is an issue.
Definitely.
And we've always spoken about the cost of education and how it's going to affect, especially if operational costs increase. That's an argument that has been made consistently by private proprietors of private institutions. Just give me your view, or rather your take on what's happening and how best can what he contends to be a very contentious issue be rectified.
Oh, thank you very much, my Christmas. First of all, I wanted the government to know the role of private schools. He is more technical than me. He has the statistics.
That's right.
I'm a practical teacher. But the government has to know the role we play. URA has a slogan, is it a motto? Let's develop the country together.
That's right.
And I want people to understand that development, buildings are not the ones to show development or roads. Education, I think, is the third basic need.
That's right.
We have food, then health, then education. So we have a very big role. We have higher percentages in terms of whatever. Let us not be treated like the competitors, like whatever, but we instead need their hand. We are partnering with the government. We are playing a very big role. And private schools, first of all, we take rejected teachers. The government takes the first teachers.
Wait a minute.
Yes. The government gets
for another
And secondly, we take the rejected students, especially the colleagues who are in secondary schools. When they set the cutoff points, this is taking this, then the private school take the rest. So we educate, we give whole education to the rejected one. We give services. I've never served in the government, but I applied so many times. There's always staff sitting.
That's right.
So when it comes to private schools, we are expecting even secondment. When I was growing up, the government used to paying some teachers in private sector. That means that in private schools we are doing work in difficult moments. The Waganda call it obugubi. And when it comes to getting services, we have to bargain. In fact, to support the government, because that's what we call a parish development model. They take money and give to the juakalis. Those are the people we support.
That's right.
We sometimes we even do barter trade. You bring your chana with beans and whatever. Now, when they restrict us that beans must be bought from a supplier, of course, as he has said, the prices are very high.
All right, interesting there. Mr. Kiwanuka Kaweesa, what I see Uganda Revenue Authority trying to do is to, apart from the fact that revenue collections can be increased that way, they are trying to ensure there is perhaps clarity on how your money flows so that the whole country can understand the fee structure for private schools too. Shouldn't that be something you should perhaps understand from their point of view and then factor it in to ensure that there is harmony at the end of the day to allow the average Ugandan afford and access this education?
I think they are partly right and partly wrong. I want to say when you look at the root of this particular measure, The only problem is that it was so much revenue forecast.
It was revenue focused.
It was revenue forecast.
Yeah.
Did they look at the risk? Did they carry out risk assessment as far as the ecosystem of the education industry is concerned in this country? When you talk about they want to streamline us, that's not really streamlining us. They have got other ways of streamlining us.
Can you advise them?
We have advised them always.
Please do.
They say we should file returns, and we do. And when we file returns, they carry out an evaluation of your returns. And they are free to come and say, this and this and this seems not to be clear. You need to show ABC. But also they tell us to use auditors. And we get the experts auditors to do the business for us of filing these returns. Now, that is not really the issue for withholding tax. The issue for withholding tax is to expand the revenue. Okay? And they think that because of the ecosystem of the education industry, we are one good catch point.
That is because over the years, private institutions of learning have shown that there's a lot of money coming in. The ability to decide the fees that you charge without necessarily minding about calls from the Minister of Education that are consistent. Please, 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 please. You can decide what to say. This term, we are increasing by 250,000. And please,
Chris, let me bring it out on air.
Please do.
The issue of increasing school fees in private schools is not as flexible as you think. This is more flexible for the government grant-aided schools.
Okay.
I will not mention them.
That's an argument.
But I'll give you an example. This government granted-aided school, there is a school X, which charges the following, and I'll go through very fast.
All right.
600,000 Board of Governors. That's the secondary level. And for primary school, it would be a school management committee. That's for Board of Governors. And by the way, I want to clarify that Board of Governors and PTA are the two institutions that government formally acknowledges as put in place to regulate school fee structures.
Yes.
And PTA is not for private schools. It is for government schools and government-aided schools. You find the PTA has got a share of 300,000 shillings per child, per term. I'm talking about a fee per child, per term. That's 900,000 already. Over and above that, there is development fee. There is even sometimes there is even what they call chapel fee.
Chapel fee.
And when I calculated this, I found a figure of approximately 1.17 million shillings, which is non-tuition. And then tuition is 1.2 million. There is no private school that charges that much. You can find out. I'm not saying that I know it all.
Okay.
There are some super private schools. I don't want to talk for international schools. They're in their own class. And I don't want to talk for certain private schools.
Has this argument, just excuse me, I'll be coming to you, Mr. Mugwanya, just a little bit shortly, but has this argument come forth in your discussions with URA about how government schools and government-aided schools can be tapped into, or it is a non-starter for?
Incidentally, in the meeting which we have just held, incidentally, which was initiated by us and not by Uganda Revenue Authority, was intended to dialogue over all those matters. And in the key address to them from our side, we cited all those issues. We cited them. You see, the only challenge we are having is that the people who are actually paying these ransoms in these schools are quiet and professing ignorance because they happen to be within the system.
Who are those?
Mainly the civil servants, the rich and whatnot. Such people are the ones in such schools. Most of the students who are in the private schools are those ones, as Mr. Mugwanya mentioned earlier, who come from the ordinary people,
households,
who cannot afford those ransoms.
All right, Mr. Mugwanya, you're a teacher, founded and grounded, no doubt about that. I want to assume that he speaks more the technical, and sometimes inevitably the political. Let me pick your mind on Uganda's education sector right now?
Yes.
There's a lot that is going on, no doubt. We have these arguments back and forth, how to streamline this and the other. We now have URA coming in to apparently get help from you in revenue collection. What does the nation require right now to streamline the education sector?
I thank you very much. And I think, as he has said, he organized the meeting to meet URA. That was a very, very good step. We also thank URA that they facilitated everything. They accepted. But in this particular point of whatever, I wanted to request, first of all, because it's the biggest problem now to private schools. You know, from COVID, many schools, even last Friday's papers, 1,200 schools on sale and whatever. So I think we need to first of all, to get some help. When it comes to the taxes, taxes are very good, and we are very ready to support the government. But this is not the right moment. Even the speed. Do you know how they introduced this tax? They were calling, hello, this is Clever's origin. You have been enrolled. You are going to be withholding tax. Just beginning next month, they were giving us 3 weeks notes. That means that we are going to begin chasing our suppliers, as he said. Many people have not yet understood what URA. Many people are taking URA as whatever military police may be to rioters. URA coming, you're asking for my tin, he goes away. Somebody who is supplying firewood and whatever. We need to control the speed in that area. We need to control the speed. When it comes to other areas of parents and whatever, we need to have more meetings with parents, like a private, before we need to conduct timely meetings. We talk to the parents. They have a lot, they have a lot of challenges, and we also have a lot of challenges. They're expecting help from us, and we're also expecting help from them. So let the schools conduct parents meeting.
Okay, Mr. Kaweesa seems to be itching, but just before, can you use a minute? Let's say that in fact.
One of the things that actually government should focus on is to harmonize the educational policies and the taxation policies as far as the education sector is concerned. And two, they should also find a system of managing the school fee structures. You cannot say that a school which is charging 2.5 million shillings per learner, per term, over and above government grants is exempt. And a school which is charging 1 million shillings and foots 100% of the costs on that 1 million shillings should pay taxes.
Thank you.
That's very dangerous.
All right. Thank you very much. Christopher Kiwanuka Kaweesa, the Communications Director at the Proprietors of Private Education Institutions Association in Uganda, PPEIAU, as well as Mr. Mugwanya Christopher, who is the National Treasurer. Well, it's been a discussion, and we are glad to bring it to you as the three Christophers. Let's go for a break.